I want you to put your hands together and welcome Kristina Grönboldt.
All right, so we together as a group have to make quite a transition as my topic is a bit different. I'd like to take you on a journey to learn something about design systems. And to go a bit more niche, Thomas asked me to talk about multi-brand design systems. My name is Kristina Grönboldt. I'm a freelance design system lead, and I help teams and companies find the best solutions for their design system. I help them build the right strategy, foundation, and also help them set up teams. And together we build some pretty cool design systems. This year, I've been working on a complex multi-brand project. It is for a large enterprise company, and we try to build one design system for over 10 brands. We're part of a large digital transformation process. Over 500 people are involved in this, so it's quite a big one. Usually, if we have a multi-brand setup, we have a structure like this. We have a group on top and then multiple brands. A good example for this is, for example, the Volkswagen Group. They have Volkswagen, Skoda, MAN, Porsche, a lot of other brands. Another example could be Atlassian. They have different products that are branded differently, like Confluence, Jira, or Trello. So why do we try to cover this with a multi-brand approach? Well, the idea is actually simple. You try to develop once and use that on multiple brands. So our core idea is to have something reusable and to gain efficiency. And to explain that a bit better, I thought let's have a look at a component that you all have used probably at least 100, maybe even 1,000 times today, the button. So a button is a good example because you all are very familiar with that. It is interactive and it is a key element in basically every design system. So I'd like to have a bit of a guessing game with you. So what do you think, like just based on your experience? Doesn't really matter if you're a designer or an engineer. How complex is a button compared to other things in digital products? And for that, I'd like you to raise your hands when you think like, okay, this is a simple one. Like we start basically with one. So I'll move a little bit over and I'll just like ask you to reach your hand. So we're moving to 2, 3. Okay, we have some hands, great. 4, some more, 5. Oh, we're reaching comfortable middle. 6, 7, okay, some more. 10. 1, okay, cool. So I'll say this group of people would say, probably middle complex. Just go for a safe bet here for a while. And that is actually a pretty good overview on how estimations differ whenever you ask someone. So usually expectations and reality are something like this. So sometimes we have to deal with a discrepancy between expectations and reality. Expectations are usually based on experience, past projects, maybe even hope and wishes. I mean, who would not like to have what they want to have tomorrow or even today? So over the last year, I've talked to many people building multi-brand design systems. I've given a few talks on that topic. And I talked to someone who was building a much more complex multi-brand design system than my project. And he said one sentence that really stuck with me. We've already spent $1 million on the button. And yes, this is quite an amount of money, right? So let's see, how can you spend 1 million on a button? Or maybe not. So I mentioned the word design system already like 50 times. So before we go a bit deeper into that, I would like, again, to ask you to raise your hands. And don't worry, I won't pick you for a definition. But who here thinks like, okay, I have a good gut feeling on what a design system is? Cool, great. So we have some experts here in the room and maybe also some newbies to that topic. So we'll stay with the button for a while. And I thought, like, hey, how could I give you a good overview on this design system community, like the whole area? And we have a lot of design system teams that share the documentation or even their files online. So I took a few screenshots from other design systems to show you what they do around the button. And usually when people approach me, I ask them, what do you think we as a team should cover in the design system? And they bring up a few things. So this is colors. Colors, of course, belong in a design system. This is from Lightning's design system for Salesforce. Of course, we need typography for digital products. This is from Atlassian. And we need, of course, a Figma or a Sketch component. So here we have an example of the material design component from Google. We can see like they have different variants of buttons. We have a solid one, an outline one, a ghost one, a little elevated one, and a subtle one. We can see the different states that a button has. So for example, if we hover over it or if we press it, and we can have an icon, and we can even put that in dark mode. Why do we need that? So usually we put that together as a starting point for our designers. We want to have that as a reusable component. So we put that into libraries. And this is how Goldman Sachs organizes their libraries. So designers can pick that button from a library and use that in their designs. Why do we do that? We want to increase consistency, and we also want to speed up their workflow. So whenever we would update something on the master, it would automatically update in all of their files. Of course, we want to have the same thing as a coded component. This is an example from Pinterest's design system. They call this Gestalt. And we can see here a story of a button. This is a live coded button, and with all the props that the engineering team put together. And hopefully, design and code will match 100%. I mean, that is the goal. And I see some nods here in the audience. It's quite a challenge sometimes. And a way to ensure this is a rather new concept. It is like the community is quite excited about this, and it's called tokens. So what are tokens? A token is a design decision that is platform agnostic. So what does that mean? A design decision is basically everything that you can apply to an element. It can be a color, a border radius, a border width, opacity, size, spacing, even animation. So let's have a look what else belongs to that concept of tokens. This is an example from Shopify, from their Polaris design system, how they organize their colors. So what tokens also brought us is that we rethink how we name our colors, or general design decision. So back in the days, for the green colors we can see here, we would probably have something like, for the icon, green 600. But with tokens, we try to give colors a semantic meaning. We try to give it a human-readable name. So the icon is not called anymore green 600, it's called icon success. And to give tokens even a bit more sophisticated structure, there was a time where we would have put that hex value on the button. And then later on, we came up with the idea of naming colors, for example, blue 400. And this is from Adobe's design system, Spectrum. And they have come up with a structure where we would put something as a color name for the button CTA background color. So this is really tied to the button itself. And this means we can change that specific color in our product in 40,000 screens in design and code at the same time. And that is quite a big benefit for everyone. So this brings me to the next thing, platform agnostic. What does that mean? So we use tokens kind of like a universal language, as a universal language between design and code, so that design tools and code can speak the same language. So it doesn't really matter anymore which design tool you're using. Do you code in Android, iOS, or web? They can use all the same design decisions. And we're a little bit on the way. It's not natively integrated in design tools, for example, but there are some plugins to do that already. So this was high level on tokens. Of course, you would probably need an hour to explain what tokens are, but maybe I got you inspired to take a deeper look into that. So is this all? I mean, we have covered color, typography, we have the component in Figma, we have the coded component, and we have even covered tokens. Isn't that quite an achievement? Yes. If you got here, that is already quite a big deal. And it's quite a journey to get here. And this is a very good starting point. But I would say to have something like this transition from being a component library to a design system, we can add a few more things. So I brought you a Jira ticket screenshot from my recent project. This is a bug that was reported to our design system team. So we can see a small mobile screen, and the engineer reported, hey, the text doesn't fit in the button, obviously. So is this a bug? Did we as a design system team forget to implement text wrapping? Should we have two-lined buttons? Should we have implemented truncation that we see like 3 little dots? I don't think this is a bug. This is something that can be fixed with guidelines. So of course you shouldn't put full sentences into that screen. You should use actionable verbs on your buttons. And how can we fix this? Well, actually this can be fixed by UX designers and UX writers. This shouldn't be at the table of our engineers. They have better things to do. So let's remember the button component I showed you earlier, the one from material design. So I worked as a UI designer, and sometimes I got the Figma libraries with the same amount of buttons. And I was asked to turn maybe like a paper scribble or a wireframe into a UI screen. And they handed me the 7 buttons. Which one am I supposed to use? I mean, certainly they had a reason to provide 7 buttons, right? So I would sit there and I would have to invest quite some time to figure out what is the right one. And this might seem trivial, but as a designer, I should worry about everything else that is going on around that button and not the button itself. So our job as design system teams is to take off mental load of our designers, engineers, whoever is working on that project, so that they can focus on the real things where they can put their creativity. This is another screenshot from one of my projects. So this is a Slack message. Different channel, but same story kind of. Hey Kristina, quick question. If we had only one primary button, should it be centered? Dark mode activated. Scene switch is on. So if we provide, should I wait for a second maybe till we have light back? All right. So if we provide something like layout guidelines, again, our team doesn't have to second guess where to put that button on the screen. Another thing that is related to buttons is how we use them in our product, how we put them into patterns. So this is a discussion I had on every of my projects. And I can tell you people fight passionately about this. Do we have activated or disabled buttons at the end of our forms or transactional flows? And there's more things attached to that than just being visual or clickable. It's how do we do error handling, front-end validation, server requests. So it grows into this enormous task. And we spend hours and hours in meetings. And imagine now you have a team of like 10 product feature teams, and they all have to have the same discussions every day on every feature. So again, if we put that into some guidelines and decide on something, we can save everyone's time. And of course, in digital products, we should also cover accessibility. We had a very great talk at the First Impulses about this. And this topic usually, to be honest, falls a bit short in our daily work as designers. As we have so much stuff going on, we have to worry about so many details in our work. But obviously, this is super important, and it's much more than contrast ratios. It's, for example, also to put an area label on elements so that screen readers can also read out interfaces. And you can even integrate high-level concepts. So again, on this topic, we had a great talk from Thorsten last time about sustainable UX. This is from Decathlon. They integrated an eco-design principle. So one of their principles is, for example, don't waste time in meetings. Don't burn resources. So if you have that as a foundation in your ecosystem, it also helps teams to make better decisions. So there was a lot of stuff around the button. And to be honest, not all of it. That would have extended this talk by quite some time. But I think we have covered the most important parts. And of course, to reach this point takes some time. And of course, you need a lot of people to work on that. And to come back to that, to the initial setup, this is the old structure. We had many people working on different brands. And some brands, especially the smaller ones, maybe they have only one designer and one engineer. How are they supposed to cover all of that? It's nearly impossible. It's where we burn out over all of these tasks. So I think a good solution for that is if you have, for this special setup, a centralized design system team that can cover all of those things and that has the resources to put energy in all of these. And I think everyone can benefit eventually from that because it frees our time to build better products and to put our creativity in where it is really needed. So yeah, that's it. I hope you learned something about design systems today. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect. And I finished this talk in 17 minutes and 12 seconds.